Welcome in, everybody. Let's dive right into it. So, we have had some pretty major developments in the world of Star Wars over the past couple of days. We've had the series finale of The Bad Batch, the release of the Tales of the Empire anthology, and a new trailer drop for the Acolyte series set to come out on June 4th. And we got a pretty interesting May the 4th video put out by the official Star Wars social media teams. That one has some pretty interesting subtext that I think everybody was pretty keyed in on. Suffice to say, there are some mixed feelings and reviews flying around about all of these projects. And there's really no general consensus about the quality of any of them. If you talk to some folks, they cannot stop singing praises, while other people say everything is horrible. Everything is just god-awful. There's no redeeming factors at all. And then you get those of us in the middle who call out the bullshit when it's there, but also relent and say, well, you know, no, this was actually good. This was entertaining. This is actually meaningful and good, entertaining Star Wars. So it's real easy to say that there's no great victory for Disney here. Yeah, Lucasfilm's latest line of products is not winning over any majority. No one is overly gushing with love for these shows, even though they do have their supporters and advocates. Now, The Bad Batch had been something that I had really been very hopeful for. I'd been wanting something big, something really cool for the finale of the series. Because that's it. The series is done now. It's over. But what we got was unending. It was a ending. Sure. It wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible. I mean, the batch obviously can't win too hard because, I mean, we are very freshly in the Imperial era. So the Empire is winning everywhere right now. The rebellion hasn't really taken hold yet, even though the seeds are planted and the Empire's cruelty are kind of watering all of these individual plants. So the show in its entirety is over. A complete review of it is very fair at this point to do. I think we had a great opportunity to tell the stories of the Republic Commandos, Special Operations Groups. We had the Republic Commando novel series written by Karen Travis, and the beloved Republic Commandos video game for inspirational materials. Right? These are mostly the things that got everybody interested in a show like The Bad Batch in the first place. And I'm pretty sure all we got out of either of those was Scorch being a tertiary character in a handful of episodes of The Bad Batch. Spoiler alert, he's dead. I don't think the people behind The Bad Batch, the directors, the writing staff, and everybody, Dave Filoni, I don't think that they saw all of what had been and fully grasped what could be. Right? Because in the Republic Commando novel series, you had stories set almost entirely outside of the main theater of what was happening in Star Wars canon at the time. Now, mind you, these are non-canonical novels. So, with just a slight change to the stories in the novels, and it's really minute what you would have to do. You could make those novels canon, and it would be, I think it would be the greatest project Disney Star Wars could ever do. But just like our critique of Boba Fett, the book of Boba Fett, they Disneyfied this too much. They sanitized it, scrubbed it down, gave it some go away green and beyond blue paint from the parks, and they made it look plastic. They made it look like it's something meant to sell toys. Which I mean, their deal with Hasbro is not going very well. Every report that I'm seeing, it's pretty abysmal. So, yeah, if they had just went with the novels, and I hate being that guy. I hate being the in the books guy, right? Because I understand, and I have understood for years, that we are so beyond the books being dead. It's just so painful. But the novels even had some of the same hard points in their writing. They were focused on using family as one of the main themes of the stories, and how unconventional and wartime-made families really form and mold during the brutal conflicts of the Galactic War. And I think we lost out on something truly incredible here. And I'm 100% certain it's all because the Bad Batch is used as a transitional story that will set up Omega and Ventress as characters to appear in later Disney Lucasfilm projects. This show is just a launching pad for things down the road. They're really trying to use the same formula that Marvel did, but with Star Wars, and it's not going too well for Marvel either. I mean, it's pretty blatant at this point, and that's my biggest pet peeve. I thought that when they killed Tech at the end of season 2, that we were going to have some real consequences in this final season, but we really didn't. It's kind of weird to me that there was no follow through. So yeah, they had the golden goose by its webbed feet, and they chose to not use it. They chose to chop it up and cook it prematurely, and they got something really made of a rubbery substance that was just kind of lackluster. Well, we also got the Tales of the Empire anthology. We had 3 episodes following Barriss Offee from the Clone Wars, and we had 3 episodes following Morgan Elsbeth from The Mandalorian and Ahsoka. And right off the bat, the pacing of these episodes felt incredibly rushed. Nothing that happens in any of these episodes is allowed to sit and breathe with the audience for any amount of time. Whereas in Tales of the Jedi, we really feel Count Dooku's steady fall to the dark side. We empathize with Ahsoka's journey and see her become this renegade badass as she tries to make an honest living for herself. And I guess we can kind of see that progression with Morgan Elsbeth a little bit, even though the writers gave her the credit for the TIE Defender project, when that was supposed to be Thrawn's idea in the first place. That was total bullshit. I didn't like that at all. And how did she go from being a night witch, being housed by the Mountain Clan, straight to being, you know, a magistrate for a That's the transition you need to explain to me. You also need to explain why and how it's her coming up with the TIE Defender and not Thrawn. That to me takes away from Thrawn's genius a bit. It's overall just really dumb. Like, why you have a military genius like Thrawn come up with the TIE Defender, right? A TIE fighter that has shielding capabilities. I'm pretty sure it has a hyperdrive. It has photon torpedoes. It has some extra laser cannons. Like, this is Thrawn's baby, right? So why the retcon? It's not of any significance. Morgan Elsbeth is dead, so it's not like we're gonna get anything else out of that. So why not just leave it being Thrawn's creation? I don't know. It's very confusing and makes my brain hurt. Something I did really like seeing was the introduction of the Mountain Clan on Dathomir. Now, we get the Mountain Clan in the Legends EU novels, right? Where we get the character Tenennial Joe. Tenennial Joe is a witch from the Singing Mountain Clan who, in Legends, is a pretty important character. So that soft introduction of more Legends material is kind of cool to see. But then we get the Barriss Offee stuff, and I mean, I was absolutely okay seeing her die. It was pretty unceremonious and out of the blue, so that's okay. But her joining the Inquisitors only to turn on them almost immediately. I mean, in the final episodes of the Clone Wars, she did kind of fall to the dark side a bit there. Like, she killed innocents. She blew up part of the temple. She framed her friends. She lied to them. She strung them up. Like, she's like wading in the shallow waters of the dark side here. So why have her turn back if she's just gonna die? Like, let her die a far more tragic death. Like, let that consequence of her actions really mean something, right? That would be far more poetic. It would be far more mythological, right? That she pays for her decision of stepping over to the dark with the agents of that dark coming and killing her. That's a lot better of a story. And I can't imagine that it wasn't put forth originally. Yeah. Her stuff was kind of weak to me. Something that can be said for the string of anthology episodes, though, is that the quality of the animation is increasing. And it's steadily becoming something that's absolutely spectacular. And that is the very least of what Star Wars deserves. I mean, I looked at Tales of the Jedi and saw that they were about the same lengthwise in episodes, but Tales of the Jedi felt longer It felt like they were full 20-minute episodes of the Clone Wars again. But Tales of the Empire, I mean, they felt super short and rushed, and yeah, I'm chalking that up as a disappointment. I mean, they did Ahsoka and Dooku really great. But then they did Barriss and Morgan kind of lackluster, which makes me feel like these episodes got rushed to hell, and I'm fairly confident that they did. I mean, the goings-on of Disney Lucasfilm kind of lend some weight to that idea. The Acolyte trailers are being downvoted to hell. The studio is getting a ton of flack for the Rey movie director. No one was too thrilled about Bad Batch. The parks are dealing with the tragedy that was the Star Wars hotel tanking just abysmally. So abysmally that they had to shutter it the same year that it opened. Nothing was going well for the Disney Star Wars brand, really. Merch and toy sales are plummeting. The second quarterly report came out for Disney yesterday, or the day before, I believe. And I checked the Disney NYE stock, and oh my god, it plummeted. It plummeted like 11%. So, yeah, things were not going too well for Disney overall, much less Disney Star Wars. So it's pretty safe to assume that the higher-ups said, hey, we need something and we need it now. It's going to help stint the bleeding. But I don't think that this really gets that job done, to be honest. Lastly, speaking of which, there's the new Acolyte trailer. And this one's really easy to get through. I'm not at all excited for it. I think it's going to be much ado about nothing, really. It's going to be a big nothing burger that has nothing to do with mainline canon, which can be fine. Don't get me wrong. I was kind of looking forward to that with the Bad Batch. I mean, Star Wars has a massive galaxy, and there's one major recurring fault of the studio writing staff. They do a damn terrible job of helping us feel just how big the galaxy is, right? We keep coming back to the same places. Or even if the places are new, then they're not too inventive, or we aren't shown much of what's going on, where we're constantly jumping from place to place. I think in the sequel movies, in each movie, they go to like 5 different planets. We're not really allowed to absorb the environment to really appreciate all of what's going on around us. Everything's just going way too quick. The movies are not long enough for us to really feel where we are. So, to a degree, the prequel movies kind of do that too. And that is something the Acolyte trailer looks like they're going to do. They're going to take us to a few new places. Based on what we see, it does look like they revisit Ahch-To, which is where Luke ends up hanging out in the sequels. We'll see the Jedi Temple again, so that'll be kind of neat. And you know they're going to have Yoda walking around somewhere. Now, when this show was first announced and the director was talking about it, I very much thought it was going to be about the Sith, and we would get a story told from their perspective, which I was incredibly ecstatic for. But now it's going to be about some Jedi trying to solve some crimes, and I mean, okay, sounds neat, I guess. Just pretty underwhelming, to be honest. Honestly, I don't understand why we aren't getting that second titular word in the name of the damn franchise. It's supposed to be Star Wars, right? So, where are all the wars? I know at this point I'm just a broken record, but until I'm proven wrong, give us what the title promises. I would be really shocked to see a Planet of the Apes movie only to sit for like 2 hours watching the rise of the lizard people fight the mole men. Like, no, that's not what I wanted from something with a Planet of the Apes title at all. And really quick, going back to the studio, kind of realizing that it's in deep water here, go back and watch the May the 4th Be With You promo video. There is not a sliver of a prequel movie to be found in it. And it's really fan-oriented. So I think maybe someone in the studio realized, hey, we have screwed up. We've pissed off the fans. How can we course correct, even a little bit? Who do we need to appeal to? What do we need to steer away from? And here's something that should be a huge indicator as to what the direction of the franchise needs to be headed in. We had The Phantom Menace going back to theaters for a weekend re-release. And it made just under $15 million, with $8 million of that being domestic. In a weekend. Dude, take a hint. This was one of the most hated Star Wars projects out of anything done since 1977 up until that point. And man, if that movie can pull in crowds by that manner of metric, then people are hungry for what was. It's pretty obvious. If they were satisfied with what currently is, that movie would have not almost beat the second Avatar movie's release in 2022 with its $10 million domestic. And we had been waiting for that movie for years. Now, we had a lot of things like games, video games, comics, novels, all of which the fans had grown up with and became attached to, that they were putting up against the Phantom Menace to kind of see if it could hold its own against the massive fan base that had gotten built up until that point. To see if it could deliver on the same level of entertainment and enthrallment of everything that came before. And for a long time, most people said that the Phantom Menace was a disgrace. People hated it. There are books about how much people hate it and how George Lucas should be sued and should apologize for this travesty. And then people say that Attack of the Clones was not as bad, wasn't great, wasn't as bad, and that the Revenge of the Sith was the closest to what the fans had wanted out of a prequel Star Wars movie all along. With most people thinking that it was as good or as close to being as good as the kind of quality we had with the original trilogy. But now, because the horrendous backswill that is Disney Lucasfilm, a lot of people love the prequel movies. And most people lay the blame for all of this at the feet of people like Kathleen Kennedy. I blame her, but I also blame people like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, which is taboo in most circles, but they're responsible for these products as well. Maybe not in as heavy-handed a way as Kennedy is, but they have some manner of foot on the gas of the franchise moving forward. So, it seems that the state of Star Wars is still that of a smoldering dumpster fire. It's being overshadowed and overtaken by some other franchises that are stepping up their game, and thank God that they are. People still deserve some damn good quality entertainment. Some groundbreaking and inspiring stories. Characters that they can emulate, or fear, or use as cautionary tales. We deserve Star Wars. Not as it is, but as it should be. And that is all the time I have for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stick around for more Sci-Fi Unchained. But for now, live long and prosper, my friends, and may the Force be with us all.